China versus America. Who actually wins a Pacific War? Part 2. Not all wars are fought with weapons. Some are fought with shipping insurance, with energy prices, with factories slowing quietly thousands of miles from the front. In a Pacific War between China and the United States, the most immediate damage would not occur in the air or at sea. It would occur in the global economy. Because both nations are not just military powers. They are economic systems embedded in everything you use every day. The modern world runs on frictionless trade. A Pacific War would introduce friction everywhere. Shipping lanes crossing the South China Sea carry consumer electronics, energy supplies, industrial components, food and raw materials. Disrupt even a fraction of that flow and the effects ripple outward almost instantly. Unlike missiles, economic shocks cannot be intercepted. They spread. China is the world's largest trading nation by volume. It depends on seaborne energy imports, raw materials, food supply chains. This creates a vulnerability, but it is a slow vulnerability, not a sudden one. Blockades in the modern era do not look like naval cordons. They look like insurance withdrawals, shipping delays, port congestion, rising premiums, ships reroute, costs rise, delays compound, no shots fired, pressure applied. Energy is where economic warfare becomes strategic. China imports most of its oil and gas. The United States does not need to stop every tanker. It only needs to increase uncertainty, raise risk premiums, stretch delivery timelines. Energy markets react faster than militaries. Prices spike before shortages appear, and price spikes affect manufacturing, transportation, public confidence. Energy is not just fuel, it is political stability. Sanctions are often portrayed as decisive. They are not. They are blunt instruments. Sanctions take time to bite, encourage adaptation, reshape alliances. China has spent years preparing for partial decoupling. The US sanctions advantage remains powerful but less absolute than it once was. Sanctions rarely collapse economies, they grind them, and grinding affects both sides. Modern manufacturing is globally distributed. A Pacific War disrupts semiconductors, rare earths, pharmaceuticals, machinery. Factories don't explode, they slow, then stop. The economic shock would not be localized to Asia. It would hit Europe, Africa, Latin America. War would arrive as shortages, layoffs, and inflation, not headlines. Not every country would choose sides immediately. Many would hedge. They would maintain trade quietly, avoid formal alignment, delay public commitments. This limits the effectiveness of economic warfare. Pressure applied unevenly creates leakage, and leakage sustains endurance. Markets do not wait for outcomes, they react to risk. A Pacific War would trigger capital flight, currency volatility, investment freezes. Confidence erodes faster than infrastructure, and restoring confidence takes longer than winning battles. Economic pain translates into political pressure. In democracies, pain becomes public debate. In centralized systems, pain becomes internal strain. Neither is immune. Sustaining economic warfare requires political patience, narrative control, social resilience. Wars end not when weapons fail, but when societies decide the cost is too high. Economic warfare rarely produces winners. It produces damaged systems, restructured trade, long-term mistrust, Even the side that wins inherits a weaker global system, and weaker systems produce instability. Escalation dynamics. Escalation is not automatic. It is a chain of decisions under uncertainty. Every strike, every disruption, every sanction triggers a series of calculations. How will the other side respond? What is the acceptable cost? What happens if misjudgment occurs? Modern world is controlled chaos, where restraint is just as important as capability. Nuclear weapons are no longer a first-use tool. They exist primarily as a strategic break. The risk of escalation prevents conventional operations from going too far. Both powers understand that a misstep could be catastrophic. In a Pacific conflict, conventional battles would be intense, but nuclear thresholds impose limits. Deterrence does not guarantee peace. It guarantees caution. Both nations have mechanisms designed to manage escalation, hotlines and secure communications, deconfliction protocols for air and sea operations, early warning systems for missile launches, strategic simulations and planning. These tools do not eliminate risk, but they increase predictability, preventing minor incidents from spiraling out of control. Despite safeguards, miscalculation remains the greatest risk. A single misinterpreted missile launch, a cyber disruption misread as an attack, accidental engagement between ships or aircraft could escalate tensions rapidly. Modern war is therefore a delicate dance, aggressive enough to achieve objectives, restrained enough to avoid catastrophe. Part 1 showed that geography shapes strategy. Part 2 shows that the ultimate limit is human decision-making. Modern great power wars rarely produce winners. Instead, they test endurance, patience, and the ability to stop before crossing irreversible thresholds. Several factors make restraint difficult. Political pressure to show results quickly, economic losses demanding countermeasures, military culture that prioritizes action over patience, communication failures in fast-moving multi-domain operations. Even rational actors can find themselves trapped in escalating loops. The irony of modern warfare: capability is highest, yet control is most fragile. The Pacific War between China and the United States, in all likelihood, would have no true winner. Military campaigns strain, but rarely collapse. Economic shocks ripple globally. Escalation risk imposes artificial ceilings. Nuclear weapons prevent absolute victory, but amplify risk. Victory, if it exists, is survival of infrastructure, of political systems, of societal cohesion, of global stability. War is no longer just about winning. It's about managing what happens when everyone is armed to the teeth and interdependent. This is the reality policymakers, analysts, and strategists face every day. And it is a reality that, for the world, is far more dangerous and far more subtle than any headlines suggest. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you in our next video.